Sci-Spi.tv and Sedona Mystical Tours is delighted to present Beyond the Matrix, a Sedona Vortex event and adventure featuring international best-selling author and star of Ancient Aliens, Andrew Collins. Please join us for this exciting event that includes presentations and adventures in the Red Rocks. I'm thrilled to introduce to you Andrew Collins, who will be talking about his presentation and tour in Sedona during this phenomenal event. Hello, and thanks so much for joining us on this very special episode of Megalithic TV, starring Andrew Collins, a well-known researcher and author who has traveled to sacred temple sites around the world, specifically focused on Egypt, and he's so well known for discovering what is now called the Collins Cave and the overlay of Cygnus. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, Suzanne. It's good to be back, and I'm obviously looking forward to coming to Sedona in just a couple of months' time in April this year. Obviously, I'm excited to tell you about why I'm going to be there and what we're actually going to be doing and how the whole thing comes together.
We're so looking forward to having you. And I have been so intrigued by 7 key portal sites indicated in the Rendlesham Forest binary code download. And I know that when you come to Sedona, we'll be doing a binary code activation. After last year's event, we came into some interesting possibilities about those 7 sites. And of course, we can further explore that during this visit.
Absolutely. Well, let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing. I mean, in many ways, it does lead on from what I was doing in Sedona last year, which was more fact-finding exploration and with a bit of adventure. But this year, when we go back, it will be a case of we know what we're looking for, we know what to expect, and we want to build upon the connection between Sedona and the Rendlesham Forest case, which I'll talk about in a second. One of the biggest priorities at the moment is the fact that the Rendlesham Forest case is 40 years old this year, 2020. I mean, at the end of the year, it actually took place. For those that don't know, let's go back to the beginning, shall we? 40 years ago, imagine yourself in Britain, the eastern part of Britain, in the county of Suffolk, right? And it's an area that's dominated by really thick forests, pine forests, very sandy ground. And there are 2 military bases very close to each other. Now, although they're obviously British, so formerly owned by, the British, military, they are actually operated by the US Air Force. One of them is called Bentwaters and the other one is called Woodbridge. They're almost back to back to each other, and they're divided by a forest that's called the Rendlesham Forest. And on the night of the 25th into the 26th, I believe it was that night, I mean, there was a little bit of confusion about dates, but I think it was Christmas Day into Boxing Day. There was a couple of airmen who were posted on one of the gates leading into Woodbridge, and they were there, and they happened to notice an object, like a glowing object, coming down onto the top of the tree cover within the forest at Rendlesham. And they go out there and they encounter this strange object inside a clearing. I mean, it looks almost like sort of crystal glass in design. There's some characters written on the side of it. I mean, and it's probably only about 10, 15 feet in length, so it's not very big, but it looks like some kind of futuristic technology, but it's also glowing and pulsing, and it's affecting, their bodies and their minds. And one of the guys, Jim Penniston, goes right up and touches the object, and at which point he gets a download, as we would call it. And this download he sees in terms of a series of noughts and ones, which, you know, for the moment he forgets because there's so many other things happening. He's interrogated and eventually released, you know, by the US Air Force, you know, officials. And he still sees these noughts and ones going around his head. And he eventually writes them down in his notebook, the same notebook that he's also scribbled down pictures of what the object looks like, the symbols on its side. And he fills, you know, a dozen or so pages with these noughts and ones, and then just forgets about the whole thing. Until much later, somebody sees these noughts and ones in his notebook, and they say, you know, what is this? And he says, oh, I just, you know, felt compelled to get this out of my head at the time, and you know, I felt better afterwards. Well, they said that it looks like binary code, and when it was translated, it seemed to be a message that was coming from, all I can say is the future. That, I mean, yes, it seemed to be an intelligence, perhaps the intelligence behind this UFO incident, but it seemed to imply that it was coming from a future point. And amongst the quite strange statements of this message, this binary code message as it's become known, was a series of coordinates of 7 locations around the world. Now, we are used to the idea of places that might be seen as portals or vortex sites. I mean, obviously Sedona would be on that list, but somewhere like Rendlesham Forest is also a portal site, because the UFO incident that took place at the end of 1980 was not in isolation. There had been UFO events in the area going back at least 150 years. And I've written about this, and I found accounts from Saxon times, you know, about this dark beast with glowing orange eyes that would be seen in the area. And I think that this was a memory of the appearance of these lights, you know, these mysterious balls of fire that are seen in the forest. So in other words, we're dealing with something that's been going on for a long time. The forest is also home to various, what we might describe as cryptids, you know, strange creatures that suddenly, you know, appear out of nowhere. You know, everything from a sort of Bigfoot-like creature to a dog man, you know, which is like sort of the head of either a dog or an ape with a human body. So it's somewhere that a lot of weird things have happened. I mean, I've been there many times, and, you know, think weird things have happened to me. So, and it's well known for that. Well, there are many places like this around the world. But what the binary code message was indicating is that these are 7 important portal locations, or sky gates, or whatever you want to call them, around the world. And some of them are obvious, like the Great Pyramid, the Nazca Lines. Some are interesting but less well known, like Taishan Mountain in China, which has got you know, temple complex on the top of it. I was there last year. There is a Mayan temple complex at a place called Caracol in Belize. And one of the other sites is Sedona. There were some coordinates just to the south of Sedona. And of course, these have been known about, and people have sort of, you know, roughly explored it. But myself and a colleague last year went to the exact location, the exact coordinates. And, you know, we did a little ritual meditation there. And before I describe what happened there, I mean, what we found was that this was a very remote part of Sedona, somewhere that is not usually on the trail of vortex sites. And it's in an area known as Turkey Creek. And there is this pyramid hill there that's incredible. I mean, it's just visually so impressive. And I later found out that it was seen by Native Americans as a place of emergence, a sipapo, you know, where their earliest ancestors were thought to have emerged out of the earth following the end of a previous world age and the beginning of a new one. But I didn't know this at the time. And when I was there, I saw a series of images, you know, like almost like a vision, including that this huge, great snake, black and yellow, coming out of this place at the base of this pyramid mountain or pyramid hill. And the exact location is this incredible natural doorway, which we've since called the Snake Door. And it seems to be symbolic of entering inside the inner world of this pyramid hill, the place of emergence, the Sipapu of Native American tradition. And, you know, we have been back there. We went back as part of an adventure in Sedona with your good self and you know, a group of other people, and people had extraordinary experiences there. And it's a wonderful site, a site that, because it's been you know, hidden, if you like, perhaps purposely by, you know, the forces that be, is it's somewhere new and important. And in many ways, this reflects what the binary code message from Rendlesham is all about, because the locations that are given seem to be places that are going to become important in the future, not simply, oh, these were important in the past, but that the implication is you've got to know about these places now for something big that will happen in the future. Something, and what you've got to do is establish a foundation at these sites now. And that's what I'm trying to do with the Sedona binary code site. So I will obviously be talking about all of this at, you know, our event and adventure in Sedona in April, and we'll be inviting the, you know, the attendees, you know, to join me to go out to this site and explore it and to find out more about it and to, you know, have their own experiences, and to connect, you know, not just with Native American tradition, but the intelligences behind the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident, you know, who we see as multidimensional in nature, and that have coexisted with us in the past, but also in the future, because in many ways they exist beyond space-time. So they know what the future is going to be. They've seen it. And in many ways, that explains what the binary code message is all about. And, you know, I need to understand more about why Sedona has been chosen here. We know it's a great place. We know it's a vortex site. We know it's, let's say, a new age center of the world. But we want to, you know, fine tune this and understand it better. So, you know, come along with us on this journey and on this journey of discovery.
One of the things I thought was most profound and transformational about our visit to the Turkey Creek site was that you performed a ritual linking with the other 6 sites, and in total being 7 sites, which of course, after your last visit, we explored the possibility that there are 7 energy centers, maybe 7 energy centers for Mother Earth, and, you know, connecting into our own 7 energy centers. Important for the future of humanity is indicated in the Rendlesham Forest binary code. And so maybe these 7 energy centers have something to do with the future of humanity.
I think so, yes. Yeah, I mean, it's something that may not be fully played out, you know, in our lifetimes, but it's something that is beginning now. And, you know, who knows, you know, just maybe the whole 2012 phenomena is associated with this. That the big symbol that we associate with these 7 sites is the Merkaba, you know, the twin tetrahedrons interlinked with each other, as a symbol of contact between the 3-dimensional realms and the multidimensional realms. That's the symbol. And I think that this is our point of contact as far as a symbol of connection with these multidimensional beings who, you know, we feel are behind all of this and are in some way guiding and steering humanity in a certain direction. I mean, all right, you know, some people might look at this a little skeptical and say, well, you know, what's your proof with all of this? Well, you know, it is something that I am looking at as far as, you know, a future book is concerned. And I need to try and put everything into context, because it's so easy just to talk about this, but it's so difficult to try and convince the greater, you know, public of what's going on here. But what I will be doing, you know, in my lecture will be to tell people what happened when I went to 3 of those binary code sites. Sedona, China last year, I took a group to them, and that was just extraordinary what happened there. And also to Ireland, because one of the other sites is the lost land of Lyoness, which is, oh yes it is, which is off the coast of Ireland. Well, you can't get there unless you get a boat and you know, and float over the spot. But there are a couple of locations on the Irish coast which it said that you can see, you know, the lost land of Lyoness rise up every 7 years, by the way. So there's your 7 connection again. And I was led again by strange set of circumstances to be at the very spot which is on one of the Aran Islands off the coast of Ireland, of West Ireland, just over a year ago. And a series of strange things happened. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, all right, yeah, weird things do surround me occasionally, but, you know, it seems that once you connect with these binary code sites, incredible things start happening. And I mean, and that's not even mentioning the Great Pyramid, where, you know, so many bizarre things have happened, that, you know, it's almost not worth mentioning because, you know, well, no, I will, of course I will. But, you know, what I'm trying to say is that's such an obvious site. In fact, that's the kingpin of it all in a way, because it is so obvious. But some of the other sites are not obvious. I mean, one of the sites that isn't obvious, for instance, and I would like to go out there, possibly with a group of people, is the gateway of Apollo on the island of Naxos in the Aegean Sea in Greece, off the coast of Greece. Now, here you've got this incredible stone gateway, which is the final remnant of a temple of Apollo that existed in the past, that was aligned to the setting of the bright star Deneb in the constellation of Cygnus, by the way. Yeah, Apollo, his main symbol was the swan. And that swan is the symbol of Cygnus. Well, the alignment of the temple of Apollo on Naxos is towards an island, which is Delos. And Delos is the birthplace of Apollo. And it's said that at the birth of Apollo, 9 swans circled round the island of Delos 7 times, right? You know, making a noise, proclaiming the birth of Apollo. So this whole connection between swans, Apollo is there with the island of Delos, and Naxos temple is aligned specifically to Delos. And beyond that, the star Deneb in Cygnus set as seen from Naxos. So there's a whole geomantic relationship involved here. But I still don't understand why Naxos should come up as one of the binary code sites. So that's something I need to investigate further within the next you know, year or so, if possible. So, you know, that's it. And then my lecture is on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday, you know, we'll be going out to the Sedona binary code site, so that people can connect with these multidimensional beings.
And the Cygnus connection is always so significant when we talk about these sites, and we already know of the Cygnus connection with Sedona. And when you were here, we went to this birthing cave you had seen in a vision quest facing Thunder Mountain or Thunderbird. And then you just mentioned a Cygnus connection with the Temple of Apollo in Greece. I'm curious about the Cygnus connection with the other sites as well. And just this idea that Cygnus is such an important constellation for us moving into this new age of enlightenment, and how Orion seemed to be important for the emergence of the enlightenment in Egypt. But now you have the celestial swan. And for me, it gives a symbolism of the divine feminine, you know, the white dove, the Holy Spirit, the celestial swan. And, you know, maybe that it does signify the emergence of a divine feminine age upon the planet.
Absolutely. I mean, Cygnus is in many ways a symbol of the cosmic mother. And I mean the cosmic mother of the universe, as opposed to just the Earth. Because in ancient times it was seen that the Earth itself had what they'd call an omphalos, a navel, that was attached by an invisible umbilical cord, to a point in the universe that was generally associated with what's known as the northern celestial pole, the turning point of the heavens around which all the stars turn. So in other words, that was where the corresponding point on the cosmic mother was. So in other words, that's where the womb of the universe was. And this is brought out in not Native American, although it is there, but in ancient Egyptian mythology, where Cygnus is associated with the womb, indeed, the womb of the goddess Nut, spelled N-U-T. She's often shown arched over the earth in her naked form, but she is the cosmic mother, and the area of her womb, it corresponds, as far as the way that she's drawn over the Milky Way, with the stars of Cygnus. And it is said that the pharaoh, on his death, or her, would go first through like an underworld realm known as the Duat. They would then emerge like the sun emerges, at dawn in the morning, and would then rise up to the constellation first of Orion, which obviously is exactly what my colleague, Robert Bouval has always said. But then the soul continues the journey to the northern part of the sky and rejoins his mother, his cosmic mother, Nut, who embraces him upon his return. And the rebirth takes place. And then they enter the afterlife proper. This sort of, called a land of Amenti or whatever, the place of the afterlife in ancient Egyptian tradition. Well, you have similar ideas in Native American tradition as well. The soul of the deceased, or indeed the soul of the shaman, would make this leap of faith from this world to the base of the Milky Way, where they would enter into the constellation of Orion. And sometimes it wouldn't be Orion, it would be Pleiades, but it's either Pleiades or Orion. They're both very close to each other. And from here, the soul would continue on the Milky Way until they reached the point that the Milky Way split and parted into two. And this was where they would encounter this figure who is variously described, but often as a bird-headed figure, who corresponds to the constellation of Cygnus. And this is the judge. And this would judge whether the soul is allowed beyond there into the afterlife, or whether it was cast into oblivion or made to reincarnate. So once again, the final point of exit from the physical universe into the afterlife is Cygnus. This is a universal thing. It's found in many different places around the world. That's why Cygnus is so important, because it's the place of emergence, and it's the place that we were seen to return at the point of death, or that the shaman would enter into this realm to communicate with the celestial beings of the sky world.
We were talking at the beginning of our discussion before the interview about this image in Sedona's sacred earth of the great bird overlaying Sedona. And it was one of those things that I'm sure happens to you all the time. I pulled the book out and just opened it randomly, and there it was, this picture of the great bird over Sedona, referencing the Yavapai legend about Kamalapuquia, who came out through Montezuma's Well here, just 5 minutes from my house. And so with this legend, the Yavapai Indians refer to Montezuma's Well as their place of emergence, saying that they sent this young woman up in a hollowed out log from the inner earth because they thought the inner earth might flood and wipe out their lineage. And so this young girl emerges through Montezuma's Well, goes to the top of Mangus Mountain to be impregnated by the sun god Ra, has a daughter who has a son, and then the daughter gets taken up by an eagle. And then it's just the grandmother and the son to become the progenitors of the Yavapai Indian race. And so all of this symbology around Cygnus, the great bird, also this place of emergence as a womb, and this reference to Ra and the eagle, all so symbolic. There's so many places around Sedona, Andrew, that really have, you know, parallels with these other sacred sites like Egypt. And so I'm so pleased that you'll be coming here. I wish that you had more time, that we could go to all of these significant spots, but we'll certainly go to the Key Portal site and Turkey Creek in Sedona, the Snake Door, and maybe if we have time, we'll investigate some of these other revelations. I'm so looking forward to it. Easter weekend, April 10th through the 12th. Please do join us. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.